Yeah, 1000%. Well, welcome everybody. I am so thrilled. We've got some guests on Inspired for More today. And if this is your first time pressing play, I am just so thrilled that you did because Inspired for More, it was a massive passion project for me. And it still is to this day. It is something that I pour into with all of my heart. And I really believe that if you can be inspired, you are meant to inspire others. And when we think about being inspired, it means that your higher self is just simply speaking to you. And that's what we really try to, I'm always on a mission to deliver in every episode. And today is definitely going to be one that I really think is going to spread its wings to many, many, many people. And so today we have the great honor of having Sisters Next Door Coaching on with Molly. I'm like, you guys have different names, Kroger and Moser. And basically, what's really exciting is that these are my dear friends. And I have to tell you that we went out for dinner in Arizona. We were out for a convention earlier this year. And you just know you're around the right people when you leave the dinner table and you're vibrating. Like I was vibrating. I felt my life expanding to the next level, just being around you, the two of you. And I just love everything that you guys put out. And ever since the first day that Molly and I actually met, so fun fact, they're sisters, and we're going to hear more about that. But the day that I met Molly in the airport, I don't know what it was, but I felt magnetically drawn to walk over to her. She was waiting for her luggage, and I felt magnetically drawn to go hang out with her. And ever since then, we can both say that we've really became really good friends. And I'm just so grateful because I got a 2-for-1 in this deal because my sister is just about as inspiring. So it's like being in the presence of the two of them is such a gift. So I love, love, love. So just to put everybody in context, both of them are entrepreneurs, both of them are elite coaches, and Amy is coming out with a book. She's soon to be she is an author, and a book is being released as we speak. So I'm just so excited about that. So girls, women, the most empowering women that I know. Let's talk about how you guys are when I'm around you guys, I feel so in prosperity. And I would love to hear, like, did you grow up around a prosperity environment? Did you grow up in that kind of sphere? Because to me, when I look at both of you, you guys like ooze out prosperity. Like, oh, I'm at the Ritz. I'm hanging out at the Ritz. And I'm like their podcast is called Meet Me in the Penthouse. I'm like, that is so suited. I want to go drink champagne in the penthouse with you guys. Okay, so let's hear from Molly first.
Okay, how do we grow up? You know what? I mean, honestly, we grew up with parents that are believers. They loved us a lot. I'm the middle child, and there's a whole lot that, right there. I can stop there. But no, we just grew up. I would say the biggest thing that we grew up with is just always believing in us. Like I never heard my dad say, "Well, you can't do that." I just always heard him say, like, "Well, yeah, of course you could do that. Like, of course you could do that." My dad was more of the being, my mom was more of the doing, which I love because we learned like the value. Not that my dad was not a hard worker, he was, but my mom, like, she was up before it was dark. She was running when women didn't run in the 70s. Like that was almost unheard of. And so like she taught school, she was the drama teacher. So then she brought all that homework home from her. She was in plays, she was in musicals, she ran. So we saw the best of both worlds. I feel like we saw the work being done, but then we got the more of the love, the affection, the being from my dad. So to me, we grew up in an incredible household, and then we have a brother that's 6 years older than us. And he, by far, of the three of us, is the most intellectually. He is brilliant. He is the smartest, and he's got an incredible sense of humor.
No
So
offense to you, Amy.
I know, right? I'm sitting here
Okay.
like, okay. He is. I mean, we would always say of the three of us, like by far, he is the smartest, but he is super funny. And but we did grow up prosperous because we grew up knowing we were loved, and we grew up in a household that was believers. So I feel like that's prosperous.
It totally is. What about you, Amy? What's your perspective on like shifts that have happened since your childhood?
Oh my goodness. Yes. Grew up in just an incredible home, just like Molly said. But one of the things I love is we are both incredibly prosperous in our lives. And I will use the example. Molly will be out there tap dancing jazz hands. She is full fun. And I will be the one that is more sitting in the back, making sure that, but yet we're incredibly prosperous in every area of our life. And so it doesn't mean that you have to be, I like, she always goes first. She'll always talk more, but which I love. I love that. But also we were raised again the same way, but we aren't identical, but but we can converge and work together. And so I love that, that for me, I have quiet confidence. I do sit in the back a little bit more. I make bold moves, but they're quiet, bold moves. Molly's going to make bold moves with jazz hands and tapping feet.
I love it.
True. And like, honestly, both of them are such bosses. I was sitting next to Amy at dinner, and she is an amazing real estate agent. And now they've just recently transitioned as Napoleon Hill and with the Napoleon Hill Institute, which that book changed my life. And so when Molly initially shared with me that you were starting to get certified with Napoleon Hill, I was like, I didn't even know that Napoleon Hill had an institute, first of all. And the second thing is like that book literally changed my life. And so I know for myself that Think and Grow Rich is something that every single person should read. And so how did you guys both get involved in this? Like, had you been studying the book for a long time? And maybe bring us back on, where did it start from?
Well, and I'm going to start because I was the first one that got involved in it. I read Think and Grow Rich in college in a business class, and I read it and quietly again, I made some pivotal decisions early on. I've always been an entrepreneur. I have been a 1099 employee since I was 22 years old. We owned golf stores. My former husband and I, we owned about 1,000 rental units. We owned a 90,000 square foot gym. We owned storage units. So I have always been in business for myself, 20 years in real estate as a realtor. And then when I finally was at the top, I mean, I am at the top of my game. I was at the top of my game 2 years ago, top producing realtor, big sign on the highway, beautiful team of women. I am also involved in the same social selling business as you two ladies. But I knew there was something more. It's like, oh my gosh, here I am at the top, but there was something more in my heart. So I actually found Cleona, who is the Cleona O'Hara, who is the head of the Napoleon Hill Institute on Instagram. And immediately, because this is the way I think, when I make bold decisions, I make them and I know for sure that it's going to be a home run. So I reached out to her, and I knew at some point that I was going to be very good friends with her. And she and I are very, very good friends as we grow this institute
That
together.
is amazing. And then Molly, what was your tug to get involved with your sister?
Honestly, I think, I think seeing overdoing, and I just saw her differently. I saw her just some things that like were changing in her, and not just the word she spoke, that wasn't any different, but it's just who she was becoming.
Mm.
And that's when I noticed the difference. And that's when I was like, I don't know what you're doing, but whatever you're doing, I definitely want to be a part of. And poor Cleona, I mean, like I was like nipping at her heels, like, okay, I'm ready. Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm okay, I'm ready. And she's like, don't worry, like I'm getting back to you. And so I was like on her for a good 3 months of like, okay, I'm ready for the next right step. I'm ready for the next right step. So but truly, when you see somebody else transform, especially somebody as close to you as a sister, that's when I was like, okay, we do everything together. What are you doing that I'm not doing? Kind of thing. And that is really where this led to us. And it's been absolutely magical and full on faith of just like not knowing the how, but just following the next right step.
And you guys are blessing so many people through this coaching business, which I'm really excited about. Yeah, like just watching it expand. Even I was watching one of your reels this morning. I'm like, oh, I'm loving it. It's like a ripple effect, right? And when I first started in business, I was always the doer, like the same way that we were talking earlier. And it's like I knew that if I just wanted something, I had to do the things to get the result. And at one point, those things they're not enough. And that's why personal growth is such an important factor in anybody's pattern, because it's like you could want revenge on someone for as long as you want, and like it's gonna be amazing, right? So now, what are the most instrumental? I heard you say one key thing, Amy. You said I make bold moves and I like you don't go back on it. And that's one of the things you want to kind of go on. That's like one of the points in the Think and Grow Rich. You want to expand on that?
Yes, yes. Decision. I make a decision. Successful people make decisions quick and change their mind slowly. So I make quick decisions. And it is because one thing I have learned is women, I think oftentimes women, people, but women, I'm going to speak about women, we have an intuition. For me, it's God, the Holy Spirit. But I have learned when I know that voice, I jump, I move on it. I don't, there's too many times that we push it down, that must, I don't know what that was, or the timing's not right, or I don't have enough money in my account, or whatever. I don't know the how, but I have learned to follow my intuition. And that when I really make bold moves, I have a really big sense of peace right before I make that bold move. And peace meaning I am sleeping through the night. There's no anxiety. There's no anxiousness. I know it is God ordained. And that is decision. That is one principle in Think and Grow Rich: decision, making a decision quickly, and then taking the inspired action towards the goal.
That is so powerful. And when we speak about that, it often enough I see people get so caught up with the outside world. And so to make a decision quickly and to change your mind, not want to change your mind, right? Is really, you got to be in line with your higher self and with God. And most people are so caught up with what the world has to say to them. So what would you say to somebody who's feeling like they have tugs in their heart listening to this? They know that they need to make a big, bold move, whether that's deciding to promote through their network marketing business, whether that's starting to launch their business, whether that's starting to pivot in another direction, and yet they're not taking that decision. What would you encourage them to do? Whoever feels like they want to answer on that. I love this.
I would say, truly, I think I was such a take inspired action right away. And I do believe that, but I also think there's a small period where you just need to get quiet, because so often, especially those of us that are doers and high performers, and we are achievers, we often push through that because we're like, we gotta hustle, we gotta grind, we gotta get out there. But it's in the surrender, it's in the being quiet. And so that's where the magic happens. And that's when you can shut out the other voices, like having your own little quote war room where you just are like, okay, I'm just going to not look at social media. I'm not going to look at my computer. I'm not going to talk to my friends. I'm really just going to go inward, and I'm going to hear for us. I'm going to listen for God's voice. I'm going to hear what he wants me to do, what is happening next. And then you take inspired, and inspired means in the spirit, right? In the spirit. So you're taking inspired action with God. So you're like, how could that be wrong? That's not wrong. It doesn't mean it's going to go perfectly. It doesn't mean you get the result that you think you deserve. But whatever happens, it is for you.
Everything that happens for you. Such a great point. And you guys live and breathe this stuff. Like, well, you can just tell when somebody's actually living in integrity with what they coach and what they do. And so I'd love to know, what does your daily regime look like in terms of like a day to day?
Well, I've always done personal development, but 10 years ago, as I was walking through a divorce, is when I really started going inward. And I was on a surrender bender. I knew when when I walked through my divorce, I gave all of the finances to my former husband because God inwardly spoke to me and said, give it all to him, I will replenish. And I did, and I took inspired action. And so I took in the morning, every morning, I would sit in my red light blankets and I would listen to affirmations. That is the biggest thing. I listened to money affirmations because that was the one thing that I was worried about. And instead of thinking about what I didn't have, the money that I didn't have now, I went the other way. I envisioned myself with millions in my bank account. I envisioned myself with beautiful friendships and women around me. I envisioned myself flying all over, putting my kids through college with no student loan debt. And so my morning regime, I'm going off on a tangent, aren't I? It involves using my imagination. It involves getting quiet. It involves, I always say prayer is speaking to God, but meditation is listening to God. And I think so many times we're like, God, help me, whatever. But meditation is being quiet and listening. And we're doers, like Molly said, type A overachievers. So it's hard to quiet your mind. It's hard to listen. But that was probably the key thing that I did was listen. And the other thing I did was forgive. I needed to forgive everybody, including myself, for not listening. My 7-year-old self, my 22-year-old self, my 30-year-old self, my 40-year-old self. I needed to forgive myself. So that is something every day and I still do without fail. And in fact, and Molly can tell you, we have an amazing morning group that we lead through the gratitude and everything that we have incorporated in our life over these last few years.
Oh my God, we need to put that in the show notes, all the links
Yeah.
for people to find you in terms of the morning meditation. And I love the fact that you just brought up forgiveness. Do you want to expand on that, on what forgiveness does in terms of bringing in more prosperity in your life?
Forgiveness takes the hook out of me. It's not about the other person, it's about me. And when I surrendered and found the gratitude in all of the lessons I learned and just forgave, the most important thing I had to do was forgive myself for not listening when the inner voice told me otherwise. And then I also had to own that it was on me, not the other person. It wasn't about the other person. It was on me. I had the voice and I chose not to use it. So that forgiveness is just about being grateful, taking the hook out of me. It's not about, and it just frees up. It is amazing when you allow that freedom, that forgiveness, it's freedom. It is absolute freedom. And it just makes you walk a little, stand a little taller, walk a little with a little more jam. And your prosperity and abundance are chasing you when you're able to just let go of that and cut the cords and be grateful for the experience and that it happened for you.
Yeah. Oh my God. This is my favorite topic for the last 2 years has been forgiveness. And it feels like
Oh,
you always get some, and it feels like when you get on the journey, life will give you more tests to see how forgiving are you. You're like, I need you. And I heard something the other day and it was so powerful. And it said, when people walk in your presence, instead of judging them, what if you forgave them? And I was like, wow, what a
Wow.
perspective shift. What a feeling. And now I've been looking at life that way. I'm like, anytime somebody's in my space, I'm just like, I'm just going to forgive you before you even say any words, anything comes out of you. I'm just going to forgive you. I'm going to forgive all over you. And you're right, to your point. It's
good.
like, it has nothing to do with them. It has 100% to do with me and all the judgment that I've been imposing on somebody else, which is the judgment towards myself. Right. And
Amen.
so, yeah,
100%.
I'm so
Yeah.
grateful for this journey. So Molly, just to put you in perspective, is like one of my inspirations in terms of fitness in many aspects of my life, but in the fitness, okay? She's in her 50s. She is an Ironman runner, okay? Accomplished Ironman. And I feel like this small, but not like that, but you know what I mean. I do half marathons. That's what I do. I do half marathons.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a
But
big deal.
it's a big deal. It is true. You're right. It is a big deal. And I was saying to my husband, I said yesterday, I said, I want to be 85 and running marathon, like still running
Yeah.
half marathons and marathons. Like I want to be in perfect health. I will be in perfect health. I am putting that out there that I'm going to do everything in my power to be that person by the time I'm 80, 90 and plus on. And he goes, oh yeah, that's what you want. I'm like, yeah. Don't you love how your life can just be like a written book that you just decide what you want? And so Molly, how do you stay really focused on your regime of fitness at this level? Like you're
Oh my
still,
gosh. Number one, we talk about this a lot. I love talking about a life script because it's the feeling. And so for me, it's always about the feeling. And it number one, it's where I get super creative. So that's from my creative. Some people are like, I get in the shower. I'm in the shower for 2 minutes, not long enough in there to get creative. But that's where I get my creative downloads. That is where God gives me like ideas for coaching, for different courses we can offer, for just like different things in life, ways to solve problems, right? And so that's what exercise does for me. And quite honestly, I love to be outside because I feel like, man, if I can get my feet on the ground, like that's where it feels good. So I love anything and all things movement. I love that. It brings me alive. And so it's not hard to find, but I think it's I'm going to go back to the feeling. No matter what it is that you love to do, it's the feeling. Maybe you love to get your hands in the garden, like ask me about my whole gardening thing. That was a nightmare. My husband's like, you showed up with a salad bowl the next day, didn't you? And I was like, kind of. I didn't know it took that long, but like, if that's your jam, whatever it is, knitting, whatever, being with your dog, it's the feeling that you get. And so for me, it's that feeling, especially when it came to Ironman. Like, I am the only human that could put myself out there. It didn't matter what my husband thought, what my friends thought, what my family thought, what my kids thought, or if somebody was calling me saying, "Hey, I'm just making sure you're going to meet me here." It was all on me. And so I loved that experience. And I also, it was such an incredible way to, it was such an incredible gift to myself of persistence. That's a huge Napoleon Hill, you know, persistence, positive mental attitude, like
Right.
showing up even in a downpour. And I've been like that, for the last 25 years. I mean, I've just always loved setting a goal and being like, okay, nobody else made me do that. I got to do that for myself. What a gift to myself.
Right. And being in the joy, being in the joy.
Yes,
And both of you brought
absolutely.
something up, like, in a world where a lot of things are coming at us from the outside, right? And a lot of people are at the effect, which I've been at the effect. And I realize that when I'm at the effect of what the economy is, I'm at the effect of what the government says, I'm at the effect of whatever's coming at me from the outside, I'm living a very unfulfilled life. I'm a victim, right? And so
Mhm.
everything that you guys do are 1,000% all about empowerment, taking up 100% control of your life, and all of those things. And so if somebody right now is listening in and they're going, yeah, I really don't like where I'm at right now. Okay. And like they need to start taking bigger, bolder actions. What are like the top three things that you would tell them to hone in on?
Oh, this is good. I go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead, Molly.
Nope.
Okay. See, she always goes
And
first.
Molly always goes first. So we're changing
I'm
that
like,
here.
I
We're
know. I'm
changing
like,
that.
I'm using my voice, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to let her use her voice.
Uh, the three things I would say is, first of all, listen to your intuition. We go back to that. If you have a call, if there's something that makes you feel like you need more, listen to that. The
Mhm.
second thing is, you need to find a group of people who are doing, you're the average of the people you surround yourself with the most, the five most. So you need to find a group of people who are doing what you want to do, not people who are not doing it. And I will tell you what, it doesn't matter if they are crazy successful, but they all started where you did. And so people are so willing to help out. All you have to do is ask, may I join your group? May I have coffee with you? May I do this? Like, ask, and so follow. So take that inspired action. And then you need to also start, I would say, the journaling process. If you have something, you need to listen to your downloads, write it out, spend time in the morning journaling and gratitude, and you'll be on your way as you surround yourself with people who are moving forward and doing things.
I
And
love
I would,
that.
and I'm going to add a little bit on there too, because this is something, since I am, those of you that are listening, like, if you're a little more analytical, statistical, that was my first career, obviously being in medicine. So I'm wired that way. But I love that I would hear, do the inner work. And I was like, what the hell is the inner work? I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, give me the checklist for the inner work and I'll do it. But that's not how it works, sadly. But there are things that you can absolutely do on your way to become. And I think that's where, for me, instead of hitting the ground running, literally, it was, and this is my passion, is helping women understand that are successful and driven in their 30s or 40s. And like, what does that look like now? What does that look like to do the inner work? And so, taking the time to truly, when you couple gratitude with desire on top of one another, it's like a stair step, and you'll blast past your goal. But every, desire is such a feeling, and then, oh my gosh, thank you for what I have, and then I have this feeling, and then more gratitude. You will, I mean, so you'll surpass your goals. So when you have gratitude, when you're meditating and you're listening, and even if it's 5 minutes, it's like sitting there and listening. Prayer is huge for us, and so we are prayerful, we are in the spirit, and then journaling and writing your goal out. That is so huge, as far as, and get in the feeling. That's what most people, I was so mechanical about the goal, right? Like, write the goal. I did that for so many years. Thank goodness for personal development, because it did rescue me. But I'm like, I'm writing the goal. It's right here, but I'm not getting the goal. But who is I becoming on the way? And that is for someone that operates in that way, it's hard to understand the becoming, but it's a feeling. It's a feeling that you experience. And it's softening. It's a softening. And so it's transformational and it allows you to quantum leap your life.
Hmm. I love that. And most of all, like the person that's listening in and that goes, "Oh my God, I've got this, this, and this, and this in my life." I love that you said you fall in love with the person you're becoming. Because at one point I had to take a look at the problems I had in my life, whether that was financial, whether that was circumstantial. I had to look at all of those things. That's what I encourage people as they take in all of the tips that you guys gave them, is literally take a look at that and say, what version of me do I need to become that those problems are so tiny and that version of me is so big, right? Because it's all perspective. So people who have big lives have problems too. They're just bigger than their problems. So, and I love that we when you look and you study some of the most successful people, it's not that they had less problems. It's just that they like literally took those problems and became bigger than their problems, and they just became more serving of to other people. And I often think to myself, like, if I want to stay small, it's all about me. And if I think about how to expand, even though that's scary and my nervous system might go all out of whack because I'm visible to other people, which I know we all felt that way, right? Like
Yeah.
we weren't conditioned to be out there. Like, how do you guys handle putting yourself out there and being visible? Because I found that to me, like, it would shake my nervous system a lot just because I came from a small town. I'm not used to being publicly known or any of those things. Did you guys feel any of that weirdness too?
I've always known that my tests were my testimony, and it is so God ordained. I mean, I feel so called to share my test. I mean, my testimony and my
Yeah.
troubles. Things have not been easy for me. I've
No.
been incredibly resilient. But I know that I've gone through all of that so I can share with others. Like, I've gone through that and I can get through it, and you can too, and here's how. And so I know that it is really, really uncomfortable, but I feel like I have, because I've been so blessed, that I have a duty, calling, like I owe it to God to share
Right.
with others, right? And so it is such a calling that I am willing to get uncomfortable. And I will tell, like you said, I have things happen to me every day that would probably sideline most people. And I'm like, oh, well, crap. Well, that's too bad. That stinks. Well, I'll try this instead, or I'll pivot, or, so things that happen that they just don't derail me.
Yeah.
Like they would in the past, or even like probably the average person. I think, oh, good. Well, now I know what not to do, or I know who not to maybe do business with, if
Right.
they didn't follow through on their word. And I'm like, okay, well, bless them. I'm glad I could bless them, and let's pivot and move somewhere else. So when you really find that calling, you cannot stay quiet. And that is where I am at, is I cannot stay quiet, because I know that I need to share with others this information that I have and this life that I have.
It's so powerful. And when we sat for dinner, you shared a little bit about your divorce and stuff. And that really is so empowering to know, because a lot of people have gone through massive loss in relationships and whatnot. Did that kind of side rail you and when you were going through it?
It did, but I decided very quickly, I'll be darned if I'm going to give my power away
Good for you.
to this situation. I made a decision to not let it define who I am. And
Mhm.
so, of course, there were every step I took, there was doubt in my mind, but I never stopped moving forward.
Yeah.
I just did not, I chose not to allow it. And I'll tell you what, my circle is very small of people. And I surrounded myself with just a very small amount of people, but they were the people that were walking alongside me. People like you, Alex, that have been in, our businesses. That is who I have always walked alongside and who I surround myself with. So I just, again, made a decision to not allow it to sideline me, because life is too short. We only get one shot at this, and I'll be damned if I'm going to let one person sideline me. I won't give it
Amen.
that much power.
Amen. And you know what? That could be relative to an ex-husband or an individual. Sometimes we give so much power to one person in our life that might not, and maybe not even this perspective of like we're talking about divorce, but even along your journey of expanding. It feels like I've had many like energy vampires around me. I feel like more than most. And it's because and you might feel the person that's listening, you guys must have felt so many energy vampires around you too, like without a doubt. Because I feel the more that we elevate, the more we have energy vampires trying to put us down. So, forgiving, gratitude. Molly, you have anything to add on that about energy vampires?
Well, I was just going to say, as you ascend, right, to the next level, always, it's going to be slightly turbulent. And
Okay.
then you quantum leap, and then you're at this new level, and you're like, okay, now I can see it, now I can see it through different eyes. But yeah, always, you'll always have, especially I think and I don't want you to think use my voice, but the more that you decide to take up space, the more that you decide to elevate yourself, however you want to use those words, right, that resonate with you. Absolutely. It always makes people uncomfortable because they're kind of like, well, maybe I should be doing something. I mean, good night. Maybe I should be the one working on myself, and
Right.
you just cause people to kind of panic and feel less than, but that's not what you're doing at all. You're like, no, this is about me. This is about me becoming.
Right. I love that. You guys are all about helping people becoming. So we're going to put in the show notes about the 5 a.m. club. Want to just share quickly what you guys do on the 5 a.m. club?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
5:30 CST Central Time. So we have people from all over, all different countries, everything. So we listen to like a heart opener meditation that's 8 minutes, and it's just really you getting quiet, listening to your heart. It's a guided meditation, and then we do gratitude. And think about gratitude. You could think about the smallest things, but you could also think about things that haven't even happened yet. I give gratitude for the things that I know are coming, right? And then we write our goal. So, our definiteness of purpose, our chief aim. And we really teach you how to do that, of course, with feeling. And then we have a self-confidence, self-discipline formula that we believe, and we read aloud twice a day, once as a group, and then once on
Wow.
in the evening on your own. And then we always end with a few 5 minutes of Earl Nightingale.
Oh, I love
Um,
that.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, like great, great wisdom from Earl Nightingale. And it's funny, you could hear the same thing over and over, like you're like every week on Monday, it's going to be part one, and you'll hear it differently because what has happened? You have different ears. And so that's really it. And then we go out with a great song, and it's about 45 minutes, 40 to 45 minutes, but it is such a beautiful way to it's not the only inner work you'll do, but it's like part of the becoming, right?
Right.
Start there. It's free for Pete's sake. So and we're there Monday through Sunday,
Yeah.
5:30 a.m.
And I remember when you guys started it, and all I keep hearing is how much it keeps expanding and expanding and expanding. So I love that. And I'm just so grateful for you guys coming on. So thank you again so much. And next time I'm going to get the memo on putting some pink on because it's pink over here. I love it. Well, thanks again for your time, you guys. And I'm definitely going to put in the show notes for people to discover you guys. And I just am so
Thank you.
thankful for your
Thank
influence in my life. Thank you for being such a
Thank you.
positive force in my life.
I love you.
Love you too.